Our final presentation today will be given by Dr. Tim Spann, the Research Program Director for the California Avocado Commission. Tim has a PhD in plant biology from UC Davis and a Bachelor's and Master's of Science degree in horticulture from the University of Florida. Tim will be talking about the online application and development of the decision support tools.
All right, good morning everyone. So I want to just kind of walk you through the history of this model, the Commission's role in it, and go back and review a little bit of what both Cliff and David talked about, and sort of a wrap-up summary of the whole thing. So from the Commission standpoint, this project started in late 2011 when David submitted a proposal to the Commission. That was about a year prior to when I came on board with the Commission, so this project predates me. And I was not at the Commission the last time the Commission worked with Sure Harvest, so pretty much all of the team players are new this time around from previous. So this project was funded in early 2012, and at that time the Production Research Committee really felt that this was one of those rare projects that ticked off all 4 of the strategic goals of the research program: improving grower productivity, managing pests and diseases. And some of you are scratching your head because David didn't mention anything about pests and diseases in his talk. If your tree is healthy and well managed, your tree is much better capable of tolerating pests and diseases. So anything you do for tree health goes to improving management of pests and diseases. So it does tick that box. Improving cultural management practices, and perhaps most important of all, maintaining a premium quality product that can demand a premium in the market to increase your returns as growers. So what we've been doing, this has been a 5-year project with David. It wrapped up, he submitted his final report at the end of 2016. And since that time, we've been working with UCR and Sure Harvest to get a contract in place to actually build the website that you will utilize. It's been a pretty laborious process. David's model and the tools that he developed have been patented by the university, and so we had to go through a round of licensing for that. The university decided on Sure Harvest as a licensee who would be able to use those tools and develop them into a product for you to use. And so now we are in the final stages of our negotiations with Sure Harvest to get a contract in place to fund them to actually bring this to you. So we are funding the last stages of this mostly with a Department of Food and Agriculture Specialty Crops block grant. That will build the model, and then we will, from grower assessment dollars, continue to fund it for 2 more years beyond that. So you will have this available to you free of charge to use through 2020. You've already paid with your assessment dollars for the development of the model, for all of David and his team's work, and you're paying for the development with Sure Harvest, and we will make this available to you through the California Avocado Growers website, free of charge to access through 2020. At that point then, we will assess how many growers are using it, what percentage of the acreage is represented in those users, and decide from there on how we go about continuing funding of it. If there's a significant grower base that's using it to justify the annual cost of maintaining it, then we will continue to make it available free of charge. If there's a very small percentage of growers using it, then we have to look at the economics of that and say, do we have to make this on a fee basis for the few growers who are using it actually support the costs of it. So we want this to be successful. I know David wants it to be successful, Sure Harvest wants it to be successful, and so we're doing everything we can to promote this with you and to help drive adoption. So you saw this morning a demonstration of the Owlman model from Cliff. We'll be back in front of you later this year once Sure Harvest has the first beta version of this available for avocados, and we'll sit down in similar meetings and we'll walk you through the avocado version of it and try to get you to adopt it and start utilizing it and giving us feedback of what needs to be tweaked so that we can get this to the point where hopefully it's the best tool possible for all of you to use. So you're familiar with these lab analyses. This is just a generic lab analysis, not specific to avocados. You get that back, you see your green bars where you're doing well, you see the yellow bars where you're deficient, you see the red bars where you're in excess on nutrients, and then you have to try to interpret that and figure out how do you tweak your fertilizer program. Some of you have grove managers who help you do that. You look at what was your yield last year, what's your potential yield for this coming year, how much do you have to put on of each of those nutrients. But it's not a straightforward process. It is a bit of a guessing game. And so through David's model, what we're hoping to do is take some of that guesswork out of the process and be able to take this information, process it through the model and digest it, and give you some more refined recommendations. However, you saw this picture in David's talk. This model does not live in isolation of everything else that you do to manage your grove. And so David talked about Liebig's law and the barrel in terms of nutrition. I want you to think of that barrel as every single thing you do in your grove. So if you think about your Hass avocado tree, that tree has a certain potential within it based on the genetics of that tree and its potential. If everything is right, what can that tree produce for you in terms of yield? Looking around the world at where Hass is growing, that's probably somewhere 25 to 30,000 pounds per acre is what, under ideal conditions, a Hass avocado tree could be producing. So if every one of those barrel staves was up to the top, and that's what you could potentially achieve. And then you have to start questioning what's going on in your grove that's reducing the height of some of those staves. There's 13 essential nutrients that are going into that equation that are all different lengths, staves. There's your irrigation. There's the quality of your irrigation water. There's your soil factors, your pH, Phytophthora root rot. Each one of those could be represented as another stave on that barrel that's reducing your yield potential beyond that maximum. And they all work together, not in isolation of one another, to give you your ultimate yield. So even if you have every one of your nutrients within those target ranges, but you have poor quality water, you have Phytophthora root rot, you could still be missing the mark on your yield potential because those are going to be other factors that influence. So I don't want you to think of nutrition in isolation of anything else. It's part of the equation of everything that's going on in your grove. So how do you figure out all of those combinations? And that's where the model comes into play and what it's going to help you do in terms of the nutrition side of that. If in time we might be able to develop information and add in water components, soil components to the model over time, but right now it's based on nutrition. So David showed you this quickly. So this is a avocado leaf analysis that a grower provided that David ran through the model. And you can see you have a little bit of potassium deficiency. You've got calcium in excess, magnesium a little bit above the optimum, copper is deficient, and boron is slightly in excess. So the question is, if everything else is good, your water's well managed, you don't have Phytophthora issues, everything else is good, what is each of those nutrient deficiencies or excesses doing to your yield potential? How much is it reducing those staves on the barrel to drop you down? So each of those has a yield potential loss associated with it. And in this example, when you run that through the model, what you find out is that the copper deficiency is the one that's reducing your yield potential the most. Based on the model, in this situation, if you don't correct that copper deficiency, correcting the others doesn't matter, because the copper deficiency is the one that's overriding all of the others. So until you fix that, none of the others matter if you correct them. So it will give you that ranking of which of the elements is most critical to fix first, and you can stepwise try and take care of them, assuming, again, that everything else is in order in your orchard. So another example, this is another sample from the same grower. In this case, nitrogen is a little bit in excess, phosphorus, potassium is deficient, and again, a little bit of boron excess. And here you see slight differences, So your yield potential is affected, again, to varying degrees. So in this case, you would want to target your phosphorus first and your boron, and then work your way to the nitrogen and potassium. So it's a way to help you rank what's important, what are those critical issues, and where do you need to target your efforts. Again, assuming that everything else that goes in is good. And then once you have everything right, then Mother Nature comes along and there's no model to predict what she's going to do. So all bets could be off once she gets going. So to wrap up today, what we want this model to do and what we hope it does for you going forward is to help you better understand the dynamic factors at play in your grove, better understand the yield effects of each of those various factors, improve your nutrient management decisions so that you can better decide what you have to target and which nutrients to target first, increase your environmental and economic sustainability so you're not wasting fertilizer, you don't have too much nitrogen going on that you're losing it to leaching, and again, the bottom line, produce more high quality premium avocados to increase your revenue stream and make everybody enjoy California avocados. That's a product that was actually developed by UC Riverside. It's an organic product for use against Phytophthora, and it's registered, I believe, in every other state except for California for use against Phytophthora. I did get in touch with the researcher who developed it at Riverside, and his feeling is that it would not be successful in use in the field, that it was a product that was developed primarily for use in hydroponic systems, that once that product interacts in the soil, it would become tied up and it would lose its efficacy in a field situation. So unfortunately, no, the answer is there's no progress on getting that. If the researcher had come back and said that he believed that there would be good success with that, then we would have pursued it. But based on his information that he has and what he knows about it, he didn't believe that it would have any chance of really being successful in a field situation. But if you can work out a hydroponic system for avocados, then. The more information you have to feed into it initially, and this goes back to the question about the baseline, the better off you'll be. So if you have your last couple of years of yield data, you have your last couple of years of leaf analysis data, that would be great to feed into the model to give it that baseline information for your growth. At this point, we're probably not going to include the water analysis except for what nitrogen that's potentially contributing and the soil analyses. As David mentioned in his talk, they collected all of that data in the research. Extremely difficult to try and sort that out. Yes, so that's something that we've been talking about for the last couple of days. And as Cliff mentioned, there's those little question marks that'll be on there. And one of the parts where the commission's going to be involved in developing this is to get that type of information built into it. So you get the information now, what do you do with it? So, to correct it, is it a pH issue? What's your soil pH? Is that why you're deficient? You've got plenty in the soil, your tree is just not taking it up. So yeah, we will work that type of information into it throughout, sort of as a little tutorial to help guide you. And that's, again, as you start using it, that's some of the feedback we'll want is, do we have the right information in there? Are there areas where we're deficient that we need to add more? And that's part of the process that we'll want to work through with you. The time frame on this is we are hoping to have a beta version back that we can be in front of you with by the end of this year. So you'll be able to start using it going into next season. Chuck, you want to take that one? That is a hard one to give any kind of a generic answer for. It's going to be so dependent on your site, your conditions, the water you have, whether you have Phytophthora in the soil, what rootstock you're going to put. Yeah, I mean, that's one that really we just need to talk one-on-one for that type of a thing. This is at a little bit higher level. Absolutely, absolutely, yes. So contact me, tspann@avocado.org. Yep. Yes. So that will be so as Cliff showed you with the Owlman model. So you'll put in what your history is, but then you'll also put what you're projecting you're going to have as a crop. So that will go into the calculations, and then as you can go back in as the season progresses, and you see what your fruit drop was. If we had a heat wave and you lost some fruit, you can correct your yield prediction as you move through the season and go back in, and it will recalculate those values for you of what your targets should be. I know that fruit growers has said that they're going to start including sulfur in their standard analysis. I don't know about any of the other labs, but hopefully that's a conversation we can start having over the next 6 to 8 months. As this is developed, we can work with some of the labs to figure out how they're going to exactly integrate this into their current system. So yeah, but I know at least fruit growers did say that they're going to start adding sulfur as part of their standard analysis.